You have just written a paper with a couple dozen references. But what's the correct APA style for typing each of those references? Which parts are in italics and which are in title case? This is easy. Let's see how it's done. Examples of references for articles, books, and more in APA style papers. This video shows how to report references for widely used sources such as journal articles and books. It covers print as well as online sources. Here's the reference for a fictitious journal article with everything in correct APA style. You can use it as a model for typing up your own references, but you can do this only if you understand what elements make up the example. So, the first element is the author's name. This comes first in most types of references. But this is trickier than you think, so I've made a separate video that focuses entirely on how to type and arrange authors' names in APA-style references. The next element is the year of publication, followed by the title of the article, the name of the journal volume number, the pages that contain the article, and finally, the Digital Object Identifier, or DOI. Notice that the DOI does not end with a period. This last item will require some additional explanation. The DOI is one of the most important items to include in many types of references, both print and online. It's a unique string of text assigned to the document at the time it's published. It's important because it can be used to locate the article forever, regardless of changes involving publishers or databases. The APA Publication Manual says to include the DOI whenever possible. Chapter 9 of my book on APA style gives detailed guidance on how to locate and report DOIs. For most articles published in academic journals, you'll find the DOI somewhere on the article's first page. If the article doesn't provide a DOI, you can look it up at the free website crossref.org. You'll find instructions for using crossref.org at the site itself as well as in my book. DOIs are long, so always copy from your source and paste them directly into your references section. With many sources that you locate online, you'll have two pieces of information, the DOI and the URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. It's the web address that appears in the address box of your browser. The APA Publication Manual recommends reporting the DOI and omitting the URL whenever the DOI is available, regardless of whether the document is an online source or a print source. You should report the URL only for online sources for which there is no DOI, things like videos and Wikipedia entries. In those cases, report the URL for the web page where you found the information. A lot of good papers are presented at conferences, and most authors will be happy to send you a copy if you ask. Here's an example of a reference for such a paper. And here's the names for its various elements. Notice there is no DOI because the paper hasn't been published yet. Chapters in edited books are also good sources to use in research papers. The editors of the book, as well as the authors of the chapter, are typically experts on the topic. There's just one downside. The references can be long and tedious to type. Here's an example. And here are the names for its various elements. One element that a lot of students get wrong is the part where you provide the names of the book's editors. You can see that the initials in an editor's name come before the editor's last name and not after the last name. This is the opposite of the way that we typically report initials. Whose idea was this? After the name of the book, provide the pages where the chapter appears. If the book is in its second or later edition, provide that information in the same section. And in those rare instances where there's a volume number, put it there as well. Yes, a lot of useful information is still reported in traditional books printed on paper. Here's the APA style reference for a print book. And here are its elements. At this writing, most print books don't have DOIs, but that may change. If the book is a revised edition, make a note to that effect following the title. And if it's in its second edition, that note looks like this. The way you'll type the reference for an online book depends on the book's nature and the amount of information you can find. Let's look at the most common scenarios. Earlier we said you should always provide the DOI if it's available. Here's the reference for an online book that has a DOI as well as a publication year. The format is slightly different if you have the DOI but no year. APA style requires typing the letters ND in the location where the year would normally appear. If it's online but there's no DOI, the next best thing is to provide the URL for the website where you found it. Just copy and paste the URL directly from your browser's address box. It's okay if your word processor has to go down to a new line to paste the URL. In most cases, you should not use the Enter key on your keyboard to break up the URL across lines. Not all books are written by humans. Some are written by organizations. In those cases, just type the name of the organization in the spot where you would normally provide the name of the human author. The name of the organization is in title case and is followed by a period. The reference for a magazine article is very similar to the reference for a journal article. Typical reference will look like this. It consists of these elements. If the magazine comes out monthly, you should add the month to the section that reports the year. And if each new issue of the magazine begins with the page number of 1 rather than continuing the page numbers from the previous issue, you should provide both volume number and issue number here. Some magazine articles don't provide the name of the author. In those cases, just move the title of the article to the spot where the author's name would normally appear. It should be in sentence case and ends with a period. Everything else remains the same. References for online magazines are similar to those for print magazines, with just one or two differences. Here's a reference, and here are the names of the elements. If an article from an online magazine has no DOI, a publication manual says you should typically omit the page numbers and replace them with the URL of the website where the article appears. You can see that this article begins with the name of the author. If the author's name was not provided, just move the title of the article to the spot where the author's name would normally appear. A lot of blogs are great. Many are run by smart people sharing their expertise with the world. Here's the reference for a post from the APA Style blog. And here are its elements. Notice that when providing the publication date, you should provide the year, month, and day. This makes sense because a lot of bloggers post every day. Notice that the reference provides the title of a specific post that has been made at the blog, not necessarily the name of the blog itself. Following the title of the post, the reference includes the words blog post within square brackets. You should include an entry like this whenever your reference is from a relatively unusual source, such as a DVD, television episode, or video file. In most cases, the URL should guide readers to the specific blog post you're using as a reference, not just to the home page for the blog. We have now covered every type of source that might possibly appear in the references section of your paper. Except for in-press articles, dissertation abstracts, Kindle books, conference proceedings, encyclopedias, Wikipedia, dictionary, newspapers, YouTube videos, TED Talks, and more. But don't panic. My book on APA Style shows how to type up all of these, over 30 different kinds of references, each illustrated with easy to understand examples. Look for the link below this video.